In Frederick County, people know the names, but not always the stories. This is The Last of the Good Old Boys, hosted by Blaine Young and Billy Shreve. Each episode, we sit down with the movers and shakers of Frederick to talk about the moments, the risks, and the values that shaped who they are today. From the people who helped build Frederick County, this is The Last of the Good Old Boys.
To the Good Old Boys. I'm your host, Blaine Young. Joined with me is Billy Shreve. And again, what is The Last of the Good Old Boys? The Last of the Good Old Boys is a show all about Frederick. It is on everything Frederick. So you have to go to the Facebook site to watch it, or the other streaming services. I know that we're on YouTube. It's not a political show. I want to make that clear. We will talk to people that serve in office or maybe running for office, but we're not necessarily talking about their politics. We're talking about their story, how they get here, what's their association with Frederick. Billy, I actually had someone say, I want to be on the show, and they knew this person. Could they be on it? I said, well, what's their association with Frederick? Oh, nothing. They're trying to peddle a book. And I said, well, you got to have, it's like the Kevin Bacon rule. If you remember the Kevin Bacon rule.
Oh, yeah.
There's got to be some association with Frederick. You got to live here at some point, some type of connection. So we're talking to people that help make Frederick what it is today. We'll talk to people who will help make it what it will be tomorrow as we are evolving Frederick County rapidly. And we've talked about it on the show. I think I brought it up when we had Tom Chase on the show. And your name came up, Chip Jewell. How you doing, Chip?
Hey, Blaine, how you doing?
Good. And we started telling old stories, and Tom says hi. Apparently you two were one of the original Byron boosters.
Yep, back Goodloe ran back in actually 66 for state senate and then in 68 for Congress.
Now, before I want to jump into your history, but explain what a Byron booster was, because I know what the Byron dynasty, political dynasty.
And who Byron was.
Yeah,
it will. Goodloe Byron was when I met him, state senator. He was originally in the House of Delegates in 1966. He ran for state senate and won. He ran in 1968 for Congress and was defeated by J. Glenn Bell. And then when J. Glenn Bell moved up to United States Senate, Goodloe ran again and won. And then, of course, Beverly took over after Goodloe passed away very suddenly. But the Byron boosters we were young people, teenagers mostly, a lot of young teenagers, even preteens. And we did a lot of the handiwork for Goodloe. We'd go out and hand out pamphlets and hand out bumper stickers. I mean, I can remember the district, believe it or not, ran almost all the way to Randallstown. I can remember riding on buses going down to that shopping center down near the Liberty Road Firehouse. We went down there and passed out flyers. Have a great story about a friend of mine who was in school, Richard Mattiello. And in 1968, we were at the Mount Airy Carnival, which at that time was in what's now Wildwood Park. And we had a little tent for Goodloe, Byron for Congress. And the tent next to us had a television. They were raffling off a television, and they had a Washington Senators game on. And Rick Mattiello was a big Senators fan. He was from D.C. So we're sitting there, and this very prim and proper business person comes up and goes, "Hi, guys, I'm J. Glenn Bell." And I put my hand out, and Rick was so surprised, he went to turn around. The folding chair collapsed, so he went right on J. Glenn Bell's feet. Fell right in front of me.
And do you know how I know who J. Glenn Bell is? Because I went to Frostburg State University, and there's a school there named after him.
Everything in Western Maryland, Bell.
Absolutely.
And he was a federal?
He wound up being
with Mac Mathias.
After Mac, didn't he?
They served together.
I think they served maybe one term, right, a couple years together.
Well, if you remember, Chip, they served together, and they were, that's the last, well, I don't know if it's last time, but in recent memory, that's the last time that there was two Republican U.S. senators.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And if you remember, they were against Vietnam. They were, what would they call them? The Doves.
Yeah.
The Doves. So,
when was that? What time frame was that?
68, I guess, to 70. Would that be, Blaine?
Ballpark,
68, 68 when
Wow.
Glenn Bell went in. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Republicans from Frederick County
Yeah.
in U.S. Senate.
No, they weren't from Frederick County. J. Glenn Bell was from
Allegheny,
Frostburg,
yeah.
and then Charles Mack
okay.
Mathias was down there from
Yep.
McCourt Street. He
Right,
was from
yep.
Frederick.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yep.
so we're talking with Chip Jewell. Chip, before we were talking, I want to talk about the fire service. I want to talk about the history. I want to talk about this book that you wrote, and I saw that you were speaking to the Rotary the other day. But just give us a little background on Chip Jewell.
Yeah. Like,
Where were you born?
Frederick Emergency Hospital.
where's that?
Now, believe it or not, what's now the home building, the home extension building on Montague Lane, that was the original central alarm building.
Yeah.
That's where I originally worked in 1971. And that was also the Frederick Emergency Hospital. My mother was a nurse there.
Wow.
And it was the infirmary for the Montague. And it also served as a hospital for the indigent. And that's why you had the Potter's Field back in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And also, at that time, FMH did not allow Dr. Bourne
That's right.
privileges to deliver babies. So
Senior.
that's correct. Yeah. So my mother was Dr. Bourne's nurse at the nursery and took care of the
Wow.
babies there. So I was born in that building and then wound up working there years later in that same building.
Well, were you delivered by Dr. Bourne?
I guess so. I know my mother was there. I don't know who else.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people, you bring up the interesting history because Dr. Bourne was not given privileges
Right.
to wait on his, to take care of the patients.
That's correct.
And
opened up-
he's a black doctor, right?
Right.
At the
That's
time.
correct.
Well, so and Chip, correct me if I'm wrong, when the Baker family donated what was called the Baker Wing of, I guess then it was either the city hospital or what would FMH been called then?
I think it was still Frederick. I think it was still Frederick Memorial because we
Okay.
lived on. I don't remember, but not long after I was born, we lived on Park Place,
Yeah.
which was the little road that now it's now a parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
but that actually was a road, and where the emergency room entrances now were houses. And we lived in one of those houses.
And so they would take black patients in the hospital, but they wouldn't allow the black doctors to wait on those patients.
And they couldn't deliver. They couldn't deliver babies.
Yep.
Yeah, they
So
couldn't deliver at Frederick
Dr.
Hospital.
Bourne
That's correct.
opened up a 15-bed hospital,
Yep.
which is 173 West All Saints Street, which is
Right.
now the Lodge of Mountain City Elks 382. And the irony of it is the first African-American doctor that got rights in the hospital was his son.
Correct. Yeah.
And so Dr. Bourne, Ulysses S. Bourne Jr., that's the picture when you walk into the front lobby of the hospital. So
Yeah, but when I first went to work at Central Alarm, of course, we just worked one person a shift, and there were still nurses for the Montague home living upstairs.
wow.
So if we would get a big fire in the middle of the night and a lot of radio traffic, they'd be pounding their brooms on the floor to turn the radios down because we would wake them up.
That's
Keep
wild.
them up all night.
So Chip, where'd you go to school?
St. John's High School.
Okay.
When it was St. John's. Yep.
And then where'd you go to college?
University of Maryland. Well, I went to Montgomery College for a while and majored in fire science there, and eventually finished my degree at University of Maryland University College. So I have a bachelor's in fire science.
And then, of course, you were at Frederick Underwriters for a long time.
20 years with JR and the family there at Frederick Underwriters. And in fact, we just saw a lot of them the other night, had a retirement for Neil Filler. And so I got to see Phil Smullen. Unfortunately, Scotty Stoudemire, remember Scotty?
Yep.
Just recently passed away. Really good guy.
Same with former Senator Jack Durr.
Yeah, Jack Durr, yeah. Had a lot of good people. Yeah, I used to tease people that the application to go to work at Frederick Underwriters had three questions. Either do you hunt, do you fish, or do you bowl? And you had to answer yes to one of the three, so I was a bowler.
Okay.
So where did you bowl?
Right up Monocacy Village, right? Village Lanes.
Duck pins.
right across the street from where you work.
Yep, literally. Yeah.
But you're a duck pin guy.
Yeah, duck pins. I started there when I was about 6 years old bowling, and bowled there for about 45 years.
There was about 3 to 4 duck pin alleys within a 2-mile radius.
Yeah, you had the health center, you had Village Lanes. Believe it or not, the Diamond Bowling Alley across the United Fire Company years ago had a lane.
Yeah.
And that was right on Market?
The
There's a
health
couple
center
on
was
Market.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then an arcade was right up the street from
Yeah.
there, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, duck pin was very popular, and then you had the 10 pin at Terrace Lane.
Yeah, Senator Thomas had. Yep.
And of course, Walkersville still has the duck pin out there.
Yeah, they're still strong out there. And Mount Airy still has duck pins.
Where's Mount
Oh,
Airy?
yeah, that's
Where's
right.
the bowling alley in Mount Airy?
It's on the Carroll County side, up Center Street. When you go down from Main Street, kind of Center Street goes up the hill, back toward the, I think one of the mills is back there. I think Southern States or something's back. Oh, it used to be back up there.
Yeah. Okay.
People's Lumber, or
Yeah.
Blaine Hobbs back up in that area.
So talk a little bit about your how long as a volunteer, and then obviously you worked in the county. How many years in the fire service?
Started in 1969. I joined the United Fire Company on South Market Street in 1969. Transferred to the juniors. We lived in Monoxie Village by then. We lived on Market Street for years and got to know a lot of people at the Uniteds. And when I got my EMT, the juniors was an all-volunteer ambulance, and they then had a very large county area. You didn't have Walkersville, Libertytown, Newmarket, Braddock Heights. You didn't have all those ambulances. So the junior ambulance had a pretty big county area. And since I was
how
closer
far
to
did you guys go? You did the county.
Well, what's now Lake Linganore, juniors ran that first due, and they ran all the way to Mountaindale Road.
Wow.
So it was a large area.
And a lot of people don't realize is that at that time, the city and the county were split, right?
That is correct.
You had city paid personnel that worked for the city of Frederick government, and then you had county personnel.
Well, at that time, I had 0 county personnel.
Okay, 0.
So it was all volunteer.
Right. What happened to how we transitioned into the accommodation system we have today was essentially Mayor Young came to the Volunteer Association. And at that time, more and more calls were particularly in the Ballinger area, because that was in the county. It wasn't annexed into the city of Frederick. And particularly EMS and ambulance calls, we're getting more and more calls, and the city taxpayers essentially were paying for it. So he eventually, he came to the association, and the commissioners, and said, something's got to give. Some way, shape, or form, we either got to work out a system, we have to have billing, there's got to be a way to do this. So a task force was appointed that included county commissioners, members of the board of aldermen, budget people from both, planners from both, and several volunteers, which I wound up serving on myself. And we put together what was known as the Fire Rescue Task Force. And the recommendation was that the county take over the fire service, and that we would have the very first implementations of the fire tax. And of course, under commissioner form of government at that time, that had to go to Annapolis. So there was a good bit of lobbying. We had to do the legislative initiatives, and it did pass. Pardon me. And it did pass. And then in 1989, July 1st, 1989, every one of the city employees became a county employee, and the city of Frederick handed over all the apparatus they owned to the county at no charge.
Wow.
That's a big deal.
How many county employees were there when the city did that?
We had 31 employees that transferred from the city to the county. Today we'll have about 630
630 firefighters, EMT.
Paid firefighters
in the county. Yeah, when I dispatched, we would run maybe 10 calls a day, and we handled, I think the first year I was out there, 1,800, maybe 2,000 calls. And today, the Frederick County is responding to about 40,000 incidents a year.
So if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Chip Jewell. We're talking history of the fire service, emergency services. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat box, or if you want to say hi to Chip, you can put it in the chat box. So, reach out. I wanted to talk a little bit, Chip, about central alarm. So I don't think a lot of people realize that if your house was on fire, if you didn't have the numbers listed on your refrigerator or have a phone book, I mean, you basically started calling any fire company that somebody would answer the phone, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, you opened up the phone book, and it had every fire company, and in some cases, a separate ambulance company, and the funeral homes.
Wow.
Several of the funeral homes. In fact, when I first started work, Biddle Ambulance, Mr. Biddle, the funeral home in Myersville, was still the primary ambulance on the east side of the county. And in Middletown, Mr. Gladhill donated one ambulance to the fire company, so they ran it first due, and then he had the second ambulance. He put a radio in it, and he would run the second ambulance second due. So, and Daly's and Etchison's both had ambulances here in town. You probably remember those.
Yeah.
Back at football games.
So the funerals, sir, or the
Funeral homes.
Funeral homes
Yeah.
had ambulances, rent ambulances.
Oh yeah, Barton out of Walkersville. In fact, the story I hear about the Barton ambulance is they had what was called a conversion unit, so they could use either a hearse or an ambulance. And the only way you could tell how he was using is if there was a pillow in the window.
Wow.
That it was a live one.
Yeah. But I don't think people like realize today we take it so much for granted that you just dial 911, and then eventually you all created something that was called Central Alarm.
Yep. So you had to call the individual firehouses initially, and those phones were answered by a variety of places. Most of the volunteer fire chiefs had a phone in their house, and then you'd have like the local grocery store, or I know down in Carroll Manor, Shreve's Grocery had one.
Yeah.
You'd have them at maybe a gas station locally. Local funeral homes, a lot would have it. So they would answer the phone, and then they'd be a red button. They'd push the button and blow the siren.
So
And,
a horn would go off outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the firehouse. Yeah, each one of the firehouses had a siren, and that would go off, and they would, literally respond off the siren. Because there was very little radio communications. There was no dispatch at all. Mm-hmm. And at that time, there was a radio owned by Frederick County government. Frederick County bought a transmitter for the fire service, and it was in city police. And Frederick City Police would answer the radios if they could reach into Frederick. And if somebody needed help, then the city police would call who it was. But similar in Washington County, even when I became a dispatcher, Washington County, and this would have been the 70s, still didn't have a central alarm system.
Wow.
And if we had a call in Washington County, you had to call the paid driver on duty at Engine 1 in downtown Hagerstown, and then he would find somebody to send. And all the rule of thumb was if it was an 834 phone exchange, which was the Brunswick phone exchange, I figured they'd be close enough to Brunswick. Brunswick would know where they were, and I'd just send them.
Wow.
Right.
So what was the movement and the creation of Central Alarm that you'd have one place to call?
Well, it was actually a little opposition at first, because it took away a little bit of that authority of the volunteer fire chief, because they really, had to total authority at that point in time. So there was a lot of concerns about losing it. So it was a little controversial. There were some companies that didn't want other companies to run with them. So there was a little bit of that back and forth, and
Very territorial.
yeah, very much so. And good old Mr. Lou Dorsey, county commissioner. He was the chairman of the fire board, and they really kept meeting and organizing, getting it together. So finally in 1967, June, and we actually have, and we'll talk about the fire museum later, we actually have the logbook for the very first day Central Alarm went in operation, 1967. Had one call. Entire county had one call.
1967.
1967.
One call.
Yeah, had one call.
Who was the call for?
It was a brush fire down in, I believe it was Bartholow's Road. Yep.
You have a good memory.
But
you
I
should
didn't
see
remember
this
the call, I just
museum.
remember the book.
You should see the museum, and then we'll talk about the book. in a
Yeah,
minute,
so
too.
so that's how it originally started. And then, there was still, the Frederick City did not go into it until, I believe, 70. It was just before I went to work at Central Alarm. And we still had the separate phone number because, again, we didn't have 911.
Yeah, what was the phone number for Central Alarm?
662-6333 was Central Alarm. And then the old city fire number was 663-4400. So we still had both numbers because city residents still knew that was the only number they ever knew. So city police is very cooperative. I mean, they would answer the radio for years, and then they dispatched the units in Frederick City for a long time. So like you didn't have a dispatch over the radio. They would just ring the bells in the firehouse and blow the siren, and then maybe they'd tell you where you were going.
Wow.
And then, of course, Blaine, you remember the old air horn atop of what's now Brewer's Alley. We called Big Bertha.
Yep.
And when that went off, they had actually areas of the Frederick city were blocked out, what today we call a box area. Mm-hmm. And that air horn would blow. So that was the general alarm. So you had a private alarm and a general alarm. Private alarm was just one engine in the ladder truck. A general alarm was everything. And they would blow Big Bertha. And when you hear the blows, that's how you could tell roughly within a couple blocks where the fire was.
Wow. So what goes off at noon right now? Is it still Big Bertha or what fire company goes off at noon downtown Frederick? There's a whistle that goes off every day at noon in downtown.
That is a steam whistle that used to be on Frederick Iron and Steel and blew every day at the end of the day. That is now down at McCutcheon's.
So that's McCutcheon's.
That's
wow.
McCutcheon's.
Well,
That-
thank you for solving it, because I heard at first I thought it was United or
Yep,
something.
no, and that's the whistle. They blow it down there, and that, my understanding, it's the one that they used to blow at Frederick Garden Steel.
That's incredible.
I used to work there. They'd blow it at the end of the day every day.
You mean Frederick Garden Steel?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did. Yeah. 'Cause I used to, across the street from it was Donald B. Rice Tire.
Yes.
And that's where I was a newspaper delivery, and that's where I picked my newspapers up.
Wow.
Wow.
Every day at 4 o'clock it would blow. Yep.
So when did 911 come into existence?
911 was in the 80s. And when they moved into the new, what they call news center out at Almonte View Lane, when they moved in there, they went into 911. I wasn't working at communications at the time. Randy Waysheep was still working there, and Randy eventually.
That's a name I heard in a while.
Yeah, Randy's still around. We communicate a lot. In fact, I owe him an email or a call. I haven't gotten around to him there recently. But 911 went in, and there's a couple of things about Frederick's communication that a lot of people don't know that we all should be very proud of. First off, back when I was at Central Alarm, the local CB club raised money, and we put in the very first teletype for the deaf in an emergency communications center in the country.
Wow.
And it was an old converted
Wow.
AP teletype. It was solid metal. I mean, when that thing went off, it shook the floor. And we really didn't have many actual emergencies, but at that time there was no Maryland relay service, so we were able to schedule doctor's appointments and such. And of course, everything was a dial telephone and a carriage. And today you'd think you say, wow, how could you even work with something like that? But it worked. So that was the first one. And then during the time that Jack Markey was the emergency manager and I was director of communications, we were one of the very first counties in the country to test texting to 911. We texted with Verizon, and we were also one of the very first countries, communication centers in the country to receive text to 911 from all the major carriers.
Wow.
And that's because we've had a close relationship with MSD, Maryland School for the Deaf, and, service is needed for all citizens,
Yep.
regardless.
Absolutely.
So, and Jack was, of course, remember Jack? He was my boss, and he was very, very much of an advocate. So we've been very, very proactive to make sure that Frederick County is a leader in providing emergency communications across the board.
All right. So talk a little bit about the museum.
We're up in Emmitsburg, the old ambulance building in Emmitsburg, right on South Seaton Avenue, 300B South Seaton Avenue, was about to be torn down.
Mm-hmm.
So a few of us, myself, Wayne Powell, a couple of us got our heads together because we've been talking about having a museum. Buck Wisner was initially involved.
Buck.
So remember Buck?
Oh, yeah.
He was initially trying to get it going. So we were able to approach the town to see if they would be willing to save the building. And then we went to the county commissioners, and they were willing to save the building. So we lease it for $1, but we provide all expenses. We pay for everything. We just put a $20,000 heating and air conditioning system in the building, for example. So we've been very fortunate. We have about 10 very dedicated people up there. We have a lot of really interesting items. We have the 1919 Aaron's Fox fire engine.
Wow.
That's owned by the Gladhill family. Mr. Buck bought it years ago.
Was that used in Frederick?
That was used in Frederick. It was one of the first engines in Frederick. And we're very fortunate that his son, Morris, was willing to allow us to have it up there on display. So we have that as a motorized.
Morris has a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, and Buck had tons of stuff down there. He bought a lot of things from Frederick. And we found a hose reel that we're pretty sure came from Buck because it had a masking tape on it with the name Gladhill. And it was sitting down at the antique store, used to be in front of Gladhill Tractor when it was on Patrick Street. And when I was at the communications center, I happened to see it one day and went over, looked at it, and saw it was from Silsby Manufacturing Company, and got online and kind of matched the style of it. And again, there's no way to really prove it, but since it came from Mr. Buck, it probably came from Frederick.
Yep.
And we're pretty sure that is the original hose reel from 1876 that came with the steamer that the juniors bought, which was the first steamer in Frederick.
And a lot of people know the juniors. How far does juniors date back?
Well, the oldest is the Independence, 1818.
Yep.
They're the oldest continuous operating fire company.
Where were they located when they started?
They've always been on Church Street.
Okay.
They've always been now, not right at where they are now, but they were up a little bit closer to the courthouse.
Yeah.
And there was even a fire station there before the Independence. In fact, there were several companies before the Independence. We had the Sun Fire Company, And we do know where that was located. It was located what is now the parking lot behind Brewer's Alley, back by the Good Shepherd Cemetery, back by the church. That was the Sun Fire Company. The Union Fire Company, we believe, was located on 2nd Street right off of Market. And then we had the Frederick Hose Company. Not really sure where they were located, but they existed at least up to the 1830s. I found documentation on the Frederick Hose Company. And then the Friendship Fire Company was the predecessor essentially to the Juniors. The Juniors were 1838. The Uniteds were organized in 1845. We had another company called the Washington Hose Company, which was on East All Saints Street. They were organized in 1837. Now, the firehouse at the Uniteds, the original part of that building, is actually, we don't have it certified from Guinness Book of World Records or anybody, but another firefighter in York has put together a list. And I've actually wrote an article in Firehouse Magazine and challenged anybody to tell us different. But we're pretty sure the original part of the United Firehouse that was built in 1848 is the oldest continuously operating fire station in the United States.
Really?
Yep.
That's neat. That's amazing.
So we have some tremendous.
So I asked about Juniors because didn't Juniors have like where people, they had like their own, I won't call it a militia, but their own,
Yes.
you know what I'm trying to say?
What is it?
All
What was it?
three. Yep. All three of the fire companies organized militia. The first one was organized by the United Fire Company. Captain Johnson of the Uniteds organized it, and they organized it actually to help maintain peace in Frederick during a public hanging at Cannon Hill. That's the initial was organized. And then they organized the militia called the United Guard. The Independents organized the Independent Rifles, and the Juniors organized the Junior Defenders. And those three militia units were actually summoned to Harper's Ferry on October 19th, 1859 for John Brown's raid. Now, they did not participate in the raid to get him out of the firehouse, but they guarded the firehouse and guarded the railroad bridges and the town and such. But the Uniteds actually guarded John Brown himself. And John Brown actually talked to Captain Sin from the Uniteds and asked him to try to talk him into leaving. And,
Tried to convince him.
And, of course, Captain Sin didn't, but he also asked for medical attention. So the fire companies, even to this day, some of them have as an officer what they call a surgeon, which was a doctor that would travel with them. And Dr. Tyler from the Junior Fire Company was summoned, but Robert E. Lee, who was in charge, said no, he could not do anything to the injured people of John Brown. He could only treat the civilians and the Marines. But when John Brown was on trial, he actually thanked the United Fire Company for the humane treatment.
Wow. That's unreal. So the museum, what all's, first of all, what are the hours? What are the website? What's the admission?
How do you find out about it?
It's free. We close
free. So it's free.
No charge. We're very, we're closed right now. We close in the wintertime because we do get a lot of traffic from the Fire Academy and tourists, all 15. And in the wintertime, the guys aren't walking back to the outhouse. You know, they are in the summertime. So we'll open back up the weekend after Easter, which I believe will be the 10th and 11th, or 11th and 12th, I believe. We'll be opening back up. We're open from noon to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. And then we are not open on holiday weekends, but otherwise we're open. And there's always generally one or two, sometimes even more people there. And it's a lot of fun. We have actually a mannequin of the Junior Fire Company Junior Defender. They actually have a recreation of the uniform. And then we have an actual tintype picture of a member of the Junior Defenders.
Wow. So you know, if you're interested in how the Frederick County Fire Service evolved, obviously the first paid people were in the city, correct?
Mm-hmm, right. They were the drivers of the steam engine.
And when did that start? 1800s?
No, actually, it's kind of
paid people?
late. Yeah, they started, I believe the juniors were the first one. I believe it was in the 1890s. And then
kind of late 1890s.
Yeah, it was late because they had steamers in 1870. So they were pulling them by hand.
Yeah.
Really?
In fact, the Independent Hose Company never did own a horse.
Wow.
The juniors and the Uniteds both had horses, but the Independents, if they had to go way out of county, they would either rent horses, and there was a livery stable there.
So did they? Yeah, I was going to say, did they have stables at the firehouses downtown?
Yeah, when I first joined the Uniteds in '69, the very back part of that building is where the hay storage was.
Okay.
Wow. So take a trip up there, check out the museum. There's a lot of great history. I'm betting that you're there most weekends, aren't you, Chip?
Quite a few, not every weekend, but at least every other weekend. But if somebody has a particular thing they want to talk about or see, feel free to shoot an email, no problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Chip, so talk about the book.
Okay.
Here, hand it over here to me so I can hold it up for him, too.
Here we go.
There you go.
It's actually the third book that I've done. The first one was a more of a pictorial history called the Firefighting in Frederick. Did with a guy named Warren Jenkins, and he provided a lot of the pictures. And that's a really pictorial of the city fire companies, and it's all pictures, 220 pictures. The second book I did myself was on Frederick County history, and that's all pretty much all pictures and captions. This book, I tried to do a really good written history. It's about 34,000 words with about 330 references. So I really tried to put a good bit of time into some research. It's basically concentrated, again, on the Frederick companies because they're the oldest by far. Mm-hmm. But I do have a synopsis of every company in Frederick County that exists today. So you can go in and see how Newmarket started or Jefferson started. So I did try to get a synopsis of every company's history in the book. So you can go in, because several companies are a lot older than you realize. We actually had a chartered fire company in Libertytown in 1838. Wow. And they had organized fire protection in Emmitsburg in 1824. So there's a lot more history. A lot of people don't realize it, but the very first fire engine in Frederick was purchased in 1764.
Wow.
We're only 1 year older than the city of Baltimore. Their first engine was 1763.
And that was all horse-drawn?
They were hand-drawn. They were very small.
Hand-drawn.
Yep.
So where can they get this book?
The book at Barnes & Noble, I believe, still has it. Believe it or not, McCutcheon's, they sell a lot of things for Frederick. I know they used to have some copies down here. It's sold on Amazon. It's sold online for Barnes & Noble's online. And I take zero commission off of it. 100% of the money goes directly to the account of the Fire Museum. It sends right to them.
So it's called The History of the Fire Companies of Frederick County, Maryland. This is the most recent book.
Correct.
That you can find it on Amazon. And I'm assuming you can find the other two books on Amazon also.
Yes, yeah,
correct?
they're still. I think they're out of print, but I still see some copies there. Yes,
What's the name of the first two books?
History of Firefighting in Frederick. Firefighting in Frederick, doesn't have the word history, and then Firefighting in Frederick County are the two pictorial books.
All right, so we got about 8 minutes, and then we're going to talk to Chad Dickman, who just had an incredible win there at Hood College with the men's basketball team, and then we're going to talk to Diane Fouché the last 15 minutes, who's running for county executive. Chip, give me some of your best fire stories. I don't care if it's during your lifetime or just stories that through your research that has just kind of gave you a good belly laugh that you learned.
Well, probably a lot of people that have been in the fire service a long time remember Sonny Cannon.
Uh-huh.
Sonny Cannon was the fire chief in Brunswick, and he was a character. They built that firehouse originally. It was built and designed as a showplace. Jimmy Dean was there. Patsy Cline played there. Guy Lombardo played there. I mean, it was really designed more with the use to have a show and a fire truck if you need it. But Sonny was quite a character. He was one of them that didn't believe in central alarm. He had his own phone number into the 80s. And one of mine,
call him up.
And he'd get at his house. And
so you'd call Sonny.
You called Sonny, and he would get his own calls. And I was working one day, and we used to have, when they had the fire sirens that went off in the firehouses, every firehouse had a base station, and they had a relay in it. So when the fire siren went off, this relay would kick in, so the dispatcher would know that the siren actually blew. And sometimes people would go to the firehouse and pull a lever. Like Jefferson, a lot of times people would come up on something on 340 and you go up and pull it, and the siren would go off. So you kind of got to know which siren just by the sound, which firehouse it was. And Sonny would get a lot of calls himself. So you'd hear the siren go off, and a couple minutes later, where's Sonny at? So I hear siren go off for Brunswick, wait a couple minutes, and Sonny comes on the air, 5-2, Frederick Central, going to Lovettsville for a fire. Well, back in those days, we didn't run into Lovettsville. We didn't run into Loudoun County. Loudoun County didn't run over here. It was like a big brick wall.
You stopped.
It stopped right there. So I'm turning the monitor on for Loudoun County, and I hear this fire over there. Oh, dang on. So Sonny comes back, and he calls in what we used to call for times. He called in and had to fill his report out. So we had to give him what time they went out and responded. So I said, Sonny, how'd you get that call? I said, you don't run over to Lovettsville. He said, Jules, when that guy called, I had to go. He just bought 10 dance tickets from me. Not the truth.
A lot of people don't remember that. I mean, a lot of people don't recall that all those stars played down in Brunswick.
Yeah,
That was a big.
It was Nashville of the East. It really was.
Yeah.
They talked about it on Willie's Roadhouse when they closed it. I mean,
Wow.
it was a big deal with
I was really upset when I guess they've torn it down, and I don't know. But if you went to the old Moose Club in downtown,
Yep.
Yeah, that was neat.
Moose Club was another one. Yeah,
and they had that around the bar. They had that at the bottom where the water ran around, because they would just tell you go ahead and do your business. And
You didn't have to leave your seat.
no, didn't have to leave the bar.
Yeah.
And apparently Patsy Cline played in
She
there.
played there. Yeah, my grandmother used to go over there on Saturday nights. Yeah,
Yep.
and Patsy Cline was there. And in fact, my grandmother, when in fact, I think if I remember correctly, I think today is the anniversary of the plane crash.
Wow, really?
I believe it's today.
Wow.
And my grandmother, she just loved Patsy Cline. We had to found a thing a couple of weeks ago where she actually went over to the funeral and everything. Yeah, and of course, you know where she got her name, right here in Frederick.
Yeah, that's
Frederick
correct.
Cline lived across from the fairgrounds. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a little plaque there in front of that townhouse.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that all went down because of WFRE. We had found either a replica or whatever of the recording contract that she had signed. And she lived on the second floor, rented an apartment on that second floor there.
Okay.
And then there was a movement that got started, and now there's Billy says a plaque. I think it's actually like a stone marker.
Yeah, it's like a stone marker about, a foot square or something that sticks up. And it's got one of those brass plaques on it, like you go to the battlefield.
Yeah.
to see.
Oh, but darn, okay.
Kind of thing. It's really neat. It's really neat.
Yeah, I've seen that.
All right. Any other good ones?
Well, like I said, a lot of Sunday stories, no doubt about it. And
He seemed like he was character.
and there were a lot of people. I mean, the people that really built.
Who were your top characters in the fire
Well,
service?
Sonny definitely.
Yeah.
He's probably everybody's favorite. Max Kaiser down at Carroll Manor. Max. I used to run calls with him years and years ago. Max was quite a guy. Merle Remsburg.
Oh my
You remember
gosh.
Merle?
Yes.
I mean, Merle was the fire chief, the president of Libertytown Club, and the central committee chairman for the Jefferson District.
Yep.
And if you're running for office, you better kiss the ring. You better
Yeah,
be over
right.
H.C. Summers to see him.
And people don't realize that
Oh, yeah.
Jefferson was incorporated at one
At
point.
one time, yes.
and
it was
then turned
Point
it
Rock.
in.
It was his own city.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at incorporation.
Yep. So was Point Rock at one time.
I did not know that.
I did not know that.
Wow. Because at one point, I know that a lot of folks, they would run down the legislature and get either the delegates or senators to get them incorporated.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how Rosemont, right near Brunswick, got incorporated because they didn't want anything but homes in that area. So they ran down there and got their incorporation. So, but thanks for giving us the history of kind of 911, because I kept saying people don't realize that 911 wasn't around. It was a central alarm, and before that, you just went down the phone book.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't. Now they have, as you call in there now, it's very, very structured. Of course, back then, everybody was a fireman, so you kind of knew. But we just simply had a paper tab, and that was it. And I tell people that, during Hurricane Agnes, I spent 3 days in the bathroom. They said, "Oh, my gosh, were you sick?" I said, "Nope." Got called into duty, and there was only 3 phones that you could answer in the old central alarm building. One at the console, because you normally work by yourself, an extra phone around the corner, and because you work by yourself, there was a phone in the bathroom. So one of us stayed in the bathroom for 3 days for emergency calls.
During the flood.
During the flood, yep.
Do all fire companies now have paid folks?
Everybody but New Midway and Rocky Ridge have at least daytime, yeah. And all the ambulance crews are all ambulance crews are 24-hour except for New Market. They're still daytime and weekend. They have weekends and nights volunteer.
And I know some ambulance services have combined, right? Is Brunswick finally combined with the fire company? Are they still separate, but are they operating out of the same facility? How's that working?
They're still separate. There's one of the ambulance company's ambulances runs out of Brunswick's firehouse, the 2 ambulances, and then they still run the volunteer ambulances downtown. Thurmont is still separate. Emmitsburg has merged, which was very successful. During our time, we really tried to work on that. And by the way, people, these are my former bosses, so that's why I got to.
No,
They know all about
no.
Chip told us what to do.
No, we weren't your boss.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's Chip's boss.
No, you told us what to do.
These guys are great. Had some good time to work for Frederick County government.
So
How long did you work for Frederick County government?
yeah.
18 years, I think, my total when I retired. Yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't count my son. My first time at Central Alarm, I had 6 years out there back in the 70s before I went to work at Montgomery Fire.
So I'm making the assumption that there are no paid fire people left that converted from the city to the county.
That's correct. Edie was the last one.
What year was that?
Edie Reinhardt, just a few years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People don't realize.
6 years, yeah.
It was
He just retired.
Yeah, it's just the last 5 or 6 years. And then Tommy Lawson, he hung in there for Tommy had over 40 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Tommy was there for, he was on the ladder truck. And then he actually worked the ladder truck. And then he also worked part-time as a driver because he was a member of the juniors. And he actually worked part-time.
So are there any stories about those ladder trucks? Because they're pretty tough to drive.
Yep. Wrap up one more good story, and then we're going to go to Chad Dickman of Hood.
Okay, let me try to think. Well, like I said, the Sunday stories are the great ones. Harry O. Miller at Thermont. He was a really good guy, and he was a barber. And one story was, that he saw the ambulance go by, and he told him, guy looked a little blue, better give him a little more oxygen. And Mr. Miller, one day, we had a call up in the mountain. I was working by myself, and it was a working house fire up towards Sabillesville. Actually, it was on the other side of Lance because they had to go across the railroad track. So I hear Thermont's engine goes out, and then I hear this, Chief 10, Squad 10, you better hurry up. You're going to beat this freight train. And I had visions of, oh, my God. He got across.
well, Chip, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to have you back again because I think we already scratched the surface on some of the stories that you can tell and the history that you can tell the fire service. Because I like to talk about some of the specific fire companies. So if you got it in your schedule in the future, we'd love to have you back on, and we'll dig a little deeper specifically on some of the fire companies in their history. All right.
Sure.
Again,
Absolutely.
Make sure you go up to the fire museum, and what's that website again?
It's frederickcountyfiremuseum.org.
Yep. And don't
forget mid-April.
Yep.
And don't forget about the books that you can get that Chip has out. 100% of those proceeds go to support the museum.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening you're tuning into, I'm going back to my radio days. You're tuning into The Last of the Good Old Boys with Blaine and Billy, and we'll be right back with Chad Dickman of Hood College.
Think you've seen it all? Danny Gurry keeps finding Frederick's hidden gems. Family spots, mom and pops, and can't miss bites. Good Morning Frederick. Make sure to watch live at 9 a.m. every weekday on Facebook and YouTube. Sponsored by Intense Barbecue, family-owned barbecue food truck and catering company cooking in small batches to ensure that the food is the freshest it can be. Intense Barbecue can cater your events, and they do any kind of food. It doesn't have to be barbecue. Find them at SEBBQ.com and satisfy your meat tooth.
So the Good Old Boys, and now we're going to go to Hood College with a quick check-in with the head coach of Hood College, Chad Dickman. And there we are. Chad, how you doing?
How you doing, Coach?
I'm good, Blaine. How you doing, man?
Good. So, man, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just we got the kids going crazy downstairs, so I'm upstairs.
I'm only going to keep you for 2 or 3 minutes, all right?
Yeah, no, my wife's got them, so I just I want to make sure I had enough service up here.
No problem. So I head over to a Hood College men's basketball game. I purposely went a little late because I wanted to get the tail end of it. Instead of watching 5 minutes of basketball, I ended up watching 15 minutes because you go to double overtime against York. Incredible victory.
So it was the conference championship. Third time we're playing York. My old assistant coach is their head coach, so they know us inside and out. And just unbelievable crowd, especially after you got there, Blaine. And just high intensity, just back and forth. 2 really good teams going at it, and probably the most people we've ever had there for a Hood-related event, and just an awesome opportunity for our guys and our school to bring home that championship.
So you got the championship, and then Friday night you have your NCAA game at Hood, right?
Correct. Yep. There's a game. There's 4 teams in our pod, so we're hosting, which is a huge deal as well. So there's a 3:00 game. A team from California, Redlands University, is playing Susquehanna University from Pennsylvania, and then we're playing Vassar from New York at 5:35.
And then the winner of that
That's
play
tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, 5:30, Hood College.
Got it.
Yes, sir. And then the winner of that
play is Saturday.
Yep, same time. It'll be 5:35 on Saturday evening.
So this is the second conference championship, but the first time Hood College has ever hosted a pod of the NCAA games.
Correct. Yes.
So you're setting a little history yourself, taking after your dad.
Yeah, trying to. They did all the hard work. They did all the blue collar work. So when I came down, we had the Volpe Athletic Center had just been built, and so it was a little bit easier to recruit at that point.
Well,
Yeah, that's a nice place you got out there.
We always talk about our dads, but you've set your own mark on Hood College in terms of what you've done there with the basketball team. And I mean, I was there. I had never seen anything like that. I mean, I was literally walking inside and I'm like, that place has got to be just packed. And I mean, the excitement was unreal. It was great to see behind the bench, former President Ron Volpe cheering on as usual. He says he doesn't miss a game.
He's always there.
And so if you, I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. You got to win Friday. If you go Saturday and you win, what happens?
So we would advance on to the Sweet 16, and because of the bracket, we were pretty much like the 16th overall seed. So we would advance to play the number 1 overall team in the country, and that's Trinity in Connecticut, barring an upset. Obviously, whoever advances out of their pod, we would end up playing. But if it is Trinity, we would have to go up to Connecticut for the Sweet 16 game. So that would be next weekend, and there's only a Sweet 16 game next weekend. The following weekend, you have the Elite 8 and Final 4 in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And then the championship this year, every 10 years, they have the NCAA Division III championship and Division II championship played on the same weekend as the NCAA Division I championship. So this year, we'll play on the Sunday right before the national championship on Monday night for Division I. So usually D2 and D3 finish at probably a couple weeks before that. But this year it's kind of extended. So last time they did that, I think was in Atlanta, and I was there for that, and it was awesome. There's probably about 8,000 fans there for the D2 and D3 championship. So that's a ways away, but definitely the ultimate goal.
So here's my pledge to you. You're going to see me. I'm coming Friday night again. And then I'm coming Saturday to watch you win. And then next week, I'm going to talk to you again at 6:45, 6:50.
All right. That's a deal.
We got a deal? So what's your overall record this year, Chad? I don't care. You can be on the phone.
We're 24-3 right now.
24-3. I don't care. Great. I don't care. Next Wednesday, you can at 6:45. You can talk to me on your phone in the bathroom. I don't care, but I'll be there Friday.
It might be from Connecticut, but
that's good. Hey. I love it. But I just wanted to zoom in it because you guys got something special. I hope that Frederick turns out as they did to the last game. Pack the place Friday to watch you win. Pack the place Saturday, watch you win. And really, what you're doing is unbelievable. Not putting Hood on the map, but putting Frederick on the map. So thank you.
Yeah, good job out there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. We have a great group of guys. We got some really good local players, and yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, we are on spring break. Our kids just left. Most of them left today, so we won't have that massive, crazy student section that we had last weekend. But we still have some teams. Some spring teams that are still going to be there. So they'll they'll bring the ruckus a little bit. So hopefully we got some good fan support from the Frederick community. Always love to have the fans out there from Frederick cheering us on. I think that definitely helps. That environment when it's rowdy in there, it's not easy for opponents to come in there and beat us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. I'll see you Friday and Saturday. I may not come over and I'll throw my hand in the air and holler at you. I'll be in the corner. But again, put it on your schedule next week. All right.
All right, man. You got a deal.
Hey, thank you, Coach Dickman.
Thank you.
Great job and good luck. Talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
All right. Take care. All right. And joining the podcast now is Diane Fouché, who is running for county executive of Frederick County. How you doing, Diane?
Great. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Welcome to the show.
It's been a while. It has been a while since I saw you boys.
I know.
Couple of years.
Yeah. So we got about 10 minutes because we got a hard stop at 7 because apparently there's another podcast. So we're going to try to rock and roll. Give us a little history of who Diane is.
Well, it's exciting to see this radio station because I got to tell you, I did 4 years of radio in college. I was the Lewis and Cole Expedition into the Rising Sun. And then afterwards, my first real job was a radio station. It was WOW Q102 out of Du Bois, Pennsylvania. They're long gone now. They're syndicated somewhere else. But it was a great opportunity. I loved the college. I loved college radio. But I actually grew up in a small town in Weedville, Pennsylvania. Very small town, nice
Where's
town.
that?
Elk Country.
Like in the middle.
Elk Country?
North in the middle, right?
It's like 2 hours south of Buffalo, New York. So we see some real snow there,
Yeah,
real
you do.
snow.
Yeah. A lot of ski resorts out there.
But not a lot of jobs, not a lot of things to do. So after college, I ended up moving to Maryland and
What
started
drew you to Maryland?
a friend. I had no job hope in Pennsylvania. And so I had to come down here. And a friend said, hey, come sleep on my couch for a few weeks and we'll see if you can find a job. And I did.
Where did you start?
I started at National Credit Service. I actually was a debt collector. So I had to dun people for a living.
Did you go out there and find them like Dog the Bounty Hunter? Or
No, but I
how'd
did
that
have
work out?
I had a woman's ring repossessed on Christmas Eve.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was rough.
Ooh.
So you can be mean if you need to.
Of course.
Hopefully you're nice and lowering taxes so she can keep her ring. Don't be mean. Lower the taxes so she can keep her ring, Diane.
That's right.
So of course you work for county government.
Yes, I did.
And then now you're running for county executive. And for county government, tell them what you did.
I was the director of procurement and contracting for Frederick County, but I started at Montgomery County Public Schools. I put in 10 years there, and then I went over to Howard for a little while.
What did you do at those places?
Procurement and contracting,
Same
same
thing.
thing. Yep.
Yeah.
And then again, you and the current administrations, we'll call it bumped heads a little bit, parted ways, right?
I guess that's what you can
Well,
call it.
I'll say what you're comfortable in saying.
Okay. Well, they terminated me last year.
Okay.
So
And you believe wrongfully, correct?
I know wrongfully.
Well, there you go. And I know that there's a court case also, right?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
And I don't want to tie you up by talking about it too much, but obviously you feel there was a wrongful termination of where you were trying to. I'm only going to kind of focus on what I've read, so I'm assuming that's in the public domain.
It is in the public domain now.
Of what you felt was favoritism on who was giving bids. Would that be correct, or is that incorrect? Or there was.
So what happened?
Yeah. What can you?
Let's just cut to the chase.
What can you say?
Well, I'm obviously I'm under advisement of my attorney. I'm not
Sure.
going to quote. I'm not going to say too much. But what I will say is, you're familiar with whistleblowing, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really just a whistleblower case.
Yep.
Obviously, a director of procurement and contracting oversees all the expenditures for the county, and you can't bypass that. But I have a great story about you in that. Can I tell a story?
Oh, no.
Come on, Blaine.
About
Come
me
on.
or about Billy?
About Blaine Young.
There's a
Okay.
Blaine Young story.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe.
Make sure you get your. Well, first of all, get your.
PG,
Where
PG.
can they learn more about Diane? Where you run? Where can they get some information? Before you tell
Diane
the Blaine?
Fouché for Frederick.com.
If we
How do
can
you
pull
spell
that up,
Fouché?
Danny, while she's telling the story. So go ahead, tell your Blaine story.
Okay,
Blaine
This-
Young.
so horror stories about Blaine Young, I guess. I went over and I was brand new to Frederick, and the Blaine Young walks into my office. I don't know, maybe swaggers into my office and says, I need a contract for these guys. And I said, well, what are you looking for? And you described it. And I said, well, you can't just give away a contract. And you said, well, don't you think it's the right thing to do? Don't you think they're the right one? I was like, well, I mean, yeah, it sounds right, but you can't just give them away. There has to be a whole vetting process. And the Blaine Young said, oh, well, okay, I guess we'll get on it. And he walked back out. And so it was like, I'm waiting for fire, brimstone, all these horrible things. I mean, I've heard the worst. Nope. He said, oh, okay.
That's the way it's supposed to be done. That's
And
what
then he said, well, it's going to take months. I was like, yeah, because to do the right thing. And that's what happened.
I was learning.
Blaine Young did the right thing.
I know. That's the one. And I kept
I just took,
thinking.
no, I followed the advice of that. I got it.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't have my styrofoam cup with me.
Yeah.
So
How many rings did he have on that day? Did he look like Elvis?
No, he did not. Back in the day when I came in 2012.
I think they made me take them
So
off.
I think they were. I think there were less.
Yeah.
I think they
That was
made me take
before
them
the
off.
blonde tips too, right?
Yeah. Well, I got a few myself.
There you go.
So
Thank you. See,
we look good.
set of the trend.
I'm getting a transplant,
So-
then I'll get some.
We've got about 4 minutes because I know we got to stop at 7. I want to make sure, Diane, that you tell the folks that are tuning in why you're running for county executive and what you hope to achieve.
Well, over the past couple of years, I've seen an incredible lack of leadership and direction, certainly. It's just time that we had a leader in there. But there are so many things we could do to be more broad and more open with the people. Obviously, listening to them, not listening, actually acting on what they say seems to be really important to people. People like that. And so that's something that we really need to focus on. But we need to protect our infrastructure first. We have to do infrastructure first. Right now, what we do, developers move in, they throw down their development and then roll out and leave some money behind. In many of those cases, what many people probably don't realize is that the developers actually take their money with them, and then we have to go back to get the money for the infrastructure that they've promised. And that's a contract change. That's some legislation changes. Mostly, remember the old Thursday morning meetings that were so well attended? But they were annoying sometimes. But think of the amount of information that people got from those meetings. They could never say that there was not transparency and honesty because they looked at it every Thursday for several hours. They knew exactly what was going on in the county, and people had more of a hand in that. So what you need is that level of honesty in government.
Yeah, a lot of people asking questions in those meetings.
Is it true that amongst directors, and I heard this rumor, that you never wanted to schedule a meeting with me on a Monday? I heard. Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
That's terrible.
Yeah, you never wanted a meeting with Kirby DeLauder ever. You never wanted a meeting with Blaine on a Monday.
Oh, Lord. Oh, I heard that. But, come May, May 25th, I haven't had a drink in 2 years.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
I went cold turkey. I actually gave up coffee 3 weeks ago, but I don't want to waste time. It was tough. That was
decaf or all coffee?
all coffee.
He was always a tea drinker anyway.
Well, no, I never drank tea. I drank coffee. We got about a minute and a half. Diane, tell us what you're going to do. What should the people expect? Why should they vote for you in this Republican primary? You're running against Jeff Holtzinger.
Oh, I had a great opportunity to meet Jeff. I actually watched his
Great
show.
guy.
He got 60 minutes, Blaine.
Well, I'm going to have you back on because we did not realize we had a hard stop. So we will have you back on.
But yeah, no,
And
I
Jeff.
actually had an opportunity to meet him. He's a great guy. We have very different visions for Frederick County and the future moving forward, how things need to change and how to bring the people back into government.
All right. So, Diane, I want to thank you for coming on. I am going to have you back on.
I got more stories. I've got more Blaine stories.
We're not, well, okay, go ahead. You got a minute. We got 1 minute. Give us the best Blaine story then.
Well, actually, I have Billy's stories too. Now I'm really torn. I don't know.
Stop tearing down libraries.
I'm not going to tell either. I'm going to say maybe next time. If I
There you go.
There you go. I'll
The hook.
cliffhanger.
All right. Billy, don't build no more libraries. Shreve, as we would call it.
Yeah, everyone needs an
more
iPad.
libraries. Well, congratulations for taking a big leap of faith for us, the taxpayers and the voters. We need people that will run for office. We need people that will listen, that are qualified. I know you're running against Jeff Holtzinger in the primary. Like you said, the guy is first class. He's a gentleman. You're the same way. I think it'll be a great primary debate and discussion of ideas because obviously Jessica Fitzwater's running unopposed. And everyone loves a great, interesting election cycle. So with that, we're going to wrap it up for the last of the good old boys and Billy Shreve, Blaine Young, Diane Fouché. Want to thank you for tuning in. We will have Diane back on again, and we will have others back on again. So everyone have a wonderful night and take care.
That's this week's conversation on the last of the good old boys. Join the discussion, drop your questions and comments, and be part of the conversation. Catch us live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on the Everything Frederick Live YouTube channel, right here from Studio 401.